Hey guys, good morning to you. This is a Friday, special Friday edition of Fantasy Football Academy 2020. As always, I am the Dean here with you. And today's special edition, we're running down the fantasy relevant players who have opted out for this year's 2020 season. Look, the COVID pandemic has been causing havoc with basically our entire lives. No matter where you're at, what you do, you've been affected in some form or fashion by the COVID pandemic, and fantasy football is no different. We're trying to get a little bit of normalcy back into our lives. We're looking forward to the start of the season on the 10th between the Texans and the Chiefs. It's a Thursday night kickoff game, but the the NBA. I'm got the NBA on my mind. The NFLPA and the NFL have come to an agreement where the deadline was four o'clock Eastern time yesterday. Okay, so that deadline has come and gone, and here are your relevant fantasy players who you need to pay attention to who are on this list. Now, some of these might surprise you for the simple fact that I put these guys on my list because defense does play a part in fantasy football. Not necessarily picking a defense, because I've mentioned before how you can pretty much stream a defense. And for those of you who don't remember about streaming, it's just simply when you play a matchup, you don't really hold on to that team. You just use them for that week because they're playing a really bad offense and they have a really good matchup. So the first player to opt out, ironically, was a guard, and he was Laurent Tardif, guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, why is this important to fantasy? It's simply important just because he was a rock-solid guard for the Chiefs offense. Now, that's going to play a part in the run game. It's going to play a part in the passing game because whoever they replace him with, they might not be as good as he was, and it might affect Mahomes' output. Could affect Clyde Edwards-Helaire because along with Laurent was Damon Williams opting out, the running back from KC. That was pretty much the first big offensive name that we heard opting out for this season. Now, since then, we've had Marquise Goodwin opt out, wide receiver for Philly. We've had Devin Funchess, wide receiver for the Packers. And guys, all these guys I'm about to run down are all receivers, okay? Marquise Lee from the Pats, who joins 7 other Pats. The Pats had the most people opt out. Most of them were defense. A lot of them were secondary players. But Deontay Hightower and Patrick Chung on the defensive side, they opted out. Now, what does this mean for fantasy? Well, very simply, if your defense isn't good, then 9 times out of 10, and you can ask the Lions fans who are out there, that means that you're going to be chucking the ball all over the place. So that bodes well for anybody who wants to go out and pick up Cam Newton. Now, here's the problem. Who's he throwing to and who's he going to jive with, okay? Who is he going to mesh with and have that chemistry? Is it going to be N'Keal Harry? Okay, we don't know. We didn't see a whole lot of N'Keal Harry last year. I think he had like maybe 12 passes the entire year. It was from Tom Brady, and Tom Brady, of course, is no longer with the Pats. He's down in Tampa enjoying the sun. But who is going to be Newton's go-to guy? We don't know yet, and without an off season, there's absolutely no way that you're going to be able to tell. So your guess is as good as mine on that one. So if you want to go out and get N'Keal Harry late in the draft, which is going pretty late, sometimes undrafted, go ahead and do so. But this offense is going to look nothing like it has for the past 2 decades under Tom Brady, okay? It's totally different, and especially with the defense that's not going to be able to pull its weight because it's got so much loss and there's absolutely no depth to it because of the opt-outs. It's just going to be crazy. Another O-lineman, Nate Solder from the Giants. Now, this is important. And, this is a tie-in with the Pats. He used to play with the New England. He went to the Giants. He was pretty much the go-to guy, the protector of Daniel Jones. It's going to affect. It could affect Daniel Jones. It also could affect Saquon. We're not really sure how it's going to look, how the offensive line is going to look for the Giants. It is a big loss for them, so that's something to keep an eye out on. C.J. Mosley, cornerback for the Jets. Now, like the Jets weren't bad enough as it is, they have to lose probably their best corner. He opts out. Travis Benjamin, wide receiver for the Niners, he opts out. With the injury to Deebo Samuel, this brings Brandon Ayuka to the forefront. Chet had mentioned him during our NFC West breakdown, and he is gradually going to be gaining speed as we get closer and closer to your draft. So he's a guy to look for. If you believe in the passing attack from the Niners, this is a guy who's going to see a lot more targets. We're not really sure how much, but it also does boost the target ratio for George Kittle. Of course, he pretty much, without Deebo being there, and we know Emmanuel Sanders is in New Orleans now, he is pretty much the number one receiver for the Niners, okay? Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns, both receivers for the Dolphins, they are out. So this basically just solidifies Devontae Parker as the number one, and it's going to increase his workload along with Mike Gesicki, the tight end down in Miami. So regardless whether it's Tua or Fitzpatrick throwing in Miami, they got to throw to somebody, okay? We had Coach come out not too long ago, probably I believe it was yesterday or the day before, talking about how Matt Breida is going to be pretty much the go-to guy. He likes the style of Jordan Howard, but without any kind of depth now at wide receiver, with Hurns and Wilson opting out, they've got to throw to somebody. Those targets have got to go somewhere, okay? So in a perfect world, they would be spread out a little more. But as I've said, this is not a perfect world that we're living in right now. This is a COVID world, so strap up and get ready. Josh Doctson, former Washington wide receiver turned Jet, he also has opted out. So, like I said, the Jets really didn't need any more to get worse. But with Doctson opting out, that's just going to put more pressure on Sam Darnold to get the ball to somebody. You could see an uptick with Le'Veon Bell. Of course, Robbie Anderson is in Carolina now, so they're going without him. So just be on the lookout that Le'Veon Bell could see an uptick in targets just for lack of options. We talked about Damon Williams. Damon Williams opting out. That's going to give a boost, of course, like he needed anymore, to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is just going to be the guy now. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, like we suspected, pretty much the guy in KC. There was concern when he got drafted that Damon Williams was going to eat into his production because he'd been there, done that kind of thing. So now that's not an issue. Geronimo Allison, also wide receiver for the Lions, he has opted out, and with him opting out, that in and of itself, with Golladay on the COVID list, we're waiting for him to get off. This is why I'm telling you guys, delay your draft as long as possible so you can get all these guys off the COVID list. They should be coming off here in about the next week. So keep an eye on it and watch for it. This is why you subscribe to multiple outlets so you can get information as soon as it breaks. If you want to get certain players, then you need to subscribe to their team's whatever it is. So whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, a Twitter account, whatever, you need to have multiple accounts or multiple sources of information coming into you. Let's see, we talk about Marquise Lee, wide receiver for the Patriots. He's out. Devin Funchess for the Packers. So that right there is just going to raise Davante Adams. It's also going to put a boost into Aaron Jones's receptions. They were already thin at wide receiver for the Packers. Now it's just even more so. Andre Smith, and this is interesting, the offensive tackle for the Ravens. With as much as these guys like to run, okay, last year, Lamar Jackson just blew people away with how much he ran. They went out and got J.K. Dobbins this year to kind of take a little bit of that weight off of him so he can concentrate on passing a little more. It's going to be interesting to see how the loss of Andre Smith and that depth at offensive tackle goes. And I believe that's it. Now, like I said, the Pats have lost the most. They lost 2 O-linemen. They lost 2 guys from the defensive side of the ball. They lost a fullback, a running back, wide receiver, and a tight end. No one of great consequence for fantasy, but it does make them really, really shallow in depth. So the Pats offense is going to be hurting if they get any kind of injuries. This is why the rumors have been flying around about Antonio Brown going back to the Pats, because they are so light on offense. Now, he will have to sit out for the first 8 games, minimal. If there's any more that comes out, I don't know how much of a boost he could give you. As long as it's the 8 games, I'm cool with that being your last pick in the draft. I made that pick myself and with Chet when he was on last with us. And like he said, I'd be the smartest man in the room if that actually comes to fruition and he signs. Now, this is all the opt-outs for the deadline. However, you need to keep an eye on things because the deadline is not it. It's not over and done with, okay? There have been special circumstances that could happen. So guys like Russell Wilson, yes, Russell Wilson, his wife is pregnant. That could be one of the things that they could consider as a changing circumstance to where he could opt out. George Kittle was rumored to opt out. That's why they signed Jordan Reed to that 1-year deal. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not really sure now, since the opt-out deadline has passed and he is not opted out, how much traction those rumors have now. But they were really gaining speed there until 4 o'clock yesterday Eastern time. One thing I do want to mention, during this opt-out talks where everybody had the option to opt out until the deadline, we heard Devin McCourty for the Patriots and Odell Beckham, and everybody knows how I love Odell. We heard them raise a lot of ruckus about the opt-out, whether it be moving the deadline or whether it be the fact that the owners didn't treat us, and this is what he tweeted out, is the owners didn't treat us like humans. They don't look at us as humans, and it's all about the money. Well, here's my thing. And if anybody can get this to Odell, go for it. I would love to have his take. If you feel, Odell Beckham Jr., if you feel so strongly that the owners are all in it for the money and that the season should be canceled, that it shouldn't happen, what are you still doing playing? Why didn't you opt out? To me, that just shows that you're also all about the money and that all your talk was just that talk, which is pretty much all you've been doing for the past 3 seasons. So hopefully with the deadline passed and you not opting out, we can finally see if you got anything left in your tank or if you're just all mouth and no talent. So something to think about. Okay, guys, that's my rant for the day. We're going to get into today's topic. Aside from the COVID list, I wanted to show you guys about reading the board in the draft. Okay, so when you're doing a mock draft, I want you guys to consider this: is you're going to see a lot of mock drafts being done, and we're pulling up our Fantasy Pros mock draft list right now, and you're going to see a lot of the drafts done where they pretty much go on the ADP. They pretty much follow suit. You can pretty much guess who's going to go win. I want you guys to remember that these drafts that you're going to see in the magazines and on the websites, on the simulators and things like that, they're not going to go how your home draft is going to go, okay? Because a lot of times you're drafting against you're either seeing the fantasy experts, the industry drafts, you're seeing those guys draft, and they have specific strategies that they follow across the board. So it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're guys like the fantasy footballers that I follow, whether you guys from ESPN, NFL, wherever you're at, those guys follow specific guidelines when they draft. They either draft running back, or they'll go balance and they'll go running back, wide receiver, depending upon where they're at in the draft. But the whole thing about personal preference, about local flavor, things that I've touched on in my mistakes that people make during drafts episode earlier in my channel, all those things don't exist, or they don't exist as heavily in the magazine drafts, in the online drafts that you're going to see. So this is why it's important to know the people that you're drafting with versus the industry leagues, okay? And look, don't think that ego doesn't play into drafts. It does, okay? You can talk stuff. You can talk people into certain players if you talk enough, okay? Because the adrenaline gets going, the testosterone gets going. You want to prove this guy wrong, and they'll bait you into making mistakes. They'll bait you into taking players that you don't want to take. Stay focused, stay calm, take a deep breath, hold on for a second, and make the right choice for your team, okay? Now, everybody knows that at this time, we usually go to Zia of Lafayette, longtime sponsor of the show. But today, we have a brand new sponsor. That's right. We have Keller's Bakery of Youngsville in Youngsville, Louisiana. Their address is 627 Lafayette Street, located on the Youngsville Highway. Look, I've had their donuts. I've had their king cakes. If you out there and you don't know what a king cake is, it is absolutely delicious. Look it up, Google it. Trust me, you can find Keller's on Facebook. If you're in the area and you want to order, some donuts, a king cake, birthday cake, whatever kind of cake you want or you need for your event, with us coming out of the quarantine and us being able to meet again. Some people, they would just want to celebrate that, or they have birthdays coming up, they have anniversaries, weddings, things like that. Give them a call. Their number is 337-856-4449. They are also on Facebook if you want to order through instant messaging at Keller's Bakery of Youngsville. Listen, guys, they are absolutely phenomenal. New sponsor of the show. Show them some love and go see them. Tell them that the Dean sent you, and we'll get you some good meringue pies. They've got chocolate, lemon, and coconut. Look, I'm telling you, the lemon meringue pie is phenomenal. The coconut, I've had the coconut. You feel like it just got picked off the coconut tree. That's how fresh this stuff is. Okay, guys? So show them some love. Keller's Bakery of Youngsville at 627 Lafayette Street. off the Youngsville Highway. Go see them. Tell them the dean sent you guys. You won't be sorry. So let's get into this. We see, of course, the big three go off the board, and we're going to go down here. You guys know I'm heading for them. We're going to go Derrick Henry. Now, we've got a long ways. We're drafting fourth in a 12-man league here. And we're going to see a bunch of guys go off the board. Let's take a look at it real quick. And we're going to go through this kind of quickly today. You guys see here, back into the first, front end of the second is where your top wide receivers are going. You see Patrick Holmes go a little early there. He's usually been making it all the way back to the early part of the second or late part of the second round. He goes about mid-round here. And then we see, of course, Drake, Sanders, Mixon, they're all gone. Josh Jacobs has kind of been getting a little traction. He's been popping up in the first round here in the last few mock drafts I've done. Aaron Jones is one that's been dropping a little bit, so you could probably get him at the turn if you're looking to double up there. I would have liked to have seen, I'll tell you right now, if I was the 12th spot and if I wouldn't have gotten Nick Chubb, even though I talked him up a lot earlier in the season. Just looking at it from the aspect that he's going to be splitting time with Kareem Hunt, and Hunt's going to be used a lot more in the slot. And Nick Chubb is basically just your bruiser. He's going to get the goal line stances, so that's good. But at that point, I would rather have Aaron Jones and Kenyon Drake rather than Chubb and Hill. I don't like Hill. I don't think that he's going to give you the consistency. Yes, he's going to have those big games, but he also has games where he just absolutely disappears. You see Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's getting up there early, and I told you guys the Damon Williams opt-out made him even more valuable, okay? So let's go down here. Cheat sheets. Of course, we always hide our drafted players because, hey, we can't draft them, so there's no need to see them. So let's do this today. Let's go ahead and we'll take Eckler. We'll stay with the traditional wide receiver or running back draft. And here we're missing out on 7 guys. You see Lamar Jackson go off the board there as well. Remember, he is going to be someone you need to reach for. He's there. They got him in the first, and I don't mind that strategy that the first team has, where it's McCaffrey, Kelce, Jackson. He could have taken Jackson first and then Kelce, made Kelce the third round. But regardless, right there, those are the 3 that are going to give you positional advantage. Okay, those are your positional advantage player. We talked about that in a previous episode. Go back, check it out. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share for me. Show some love to the channel. Need all the help we can get, guys. So, we're up to 30, and I appreciate it. Shout out to my sister, my nephew, my brother-in-law for subscribing for the 30th subscribers. Appreciate it, and we're looking to add a 0 to that. So, by the end of the year, I'm hoping that we can get up to that. But like we said, McCaffrey, Kelce, and Jackson, those are going to be the guys who are going to give you positional advantage from there on out. And this is what I'm talking about reading the board, okay? It's going to take you a minute. It's going to take the first couple of rounds before you can actually kind of see trends and see what's going on. When it comes to your draft pick, unless you want to stay with any of the running backs that are left, if you want David Johnson, if you want Todd Gurley, you want Carson or Fournette, you're probably going to have to go ahead and get one of them now. It's possible that DJ could be there in the 4th, but I will tell you right now that your wide receivers are about to fly off the board. Okay. So that said, I've already got two running backs that I really like. I like Allen Robinson. Let's go ahead and take him, and we'll see how things fall. And we see a lot of wide receivers go off the board. DK Metcalf gone. Juju is gone. Let's pull up the draft board and check it out. And we see we got 2, 4, 6, 7 wide receivers off the board. Or I'm sorry, 7 running backs off the board. And 7 wide receivers. So 7 running backs, 7 wide receivers. We see Andrews and Prescott both gone. That's a little high for Prescott. They could have waited on that one. I don't really know the logic on that one, because if I'm sitting there with Dalvin Cook and Miles Sanders, then I'm definitely taking, I would at that point probably either Metcalf or Juju, since we'd already taken Robinson, and there's no way that I'm taking Odell in the 3rd round. That's just way too high. If he falls, yes, the upside is there, but he's going to have to fall at least one more round, if not to the 5th, in order for me to even consider him, okay? And again, these are things where this could be a homer pick for somebody if he's that high. If you're in a spot where other guys are more valuable in your area, if you're in, I don't know, let's say Arizona, and D-Hop and Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald are prominent, and you're a Cardinals fan, one of those guys might, sneak up a little higher than normal, or, whoever is picking at that spot is just not a fan of Odell, or if Odell's just got a bad taste in everyone's mouth, then he might fall. But again, this is the computer picking against us. So let's check out cheat sheets, see what we've got. Now, we're on the short term coming back here, guys, okay? Now, here's what we're stuck with. And this is where we're going to have to make some decisions, okay? I see David Montgomery there, but I've already got Allen Robinson. So do I want to put that much faith in Chicago's offense and go ahead and pass on David Johnson to take Calvin Ridley? Okay, these are things you need to think about, okay? And here's the other thing, is that we're looking at our 4th pick. We're getting ready to head into the 5th round. So the 5th round, if I want to target guys like Russell Wilson, normally I don't see Dak Prescott going that high. So Prescott would normally be there. Wilson, Murray, Watson, all those guys are about to go off the board in the 5th, possibly the 6th round, okay? So because running back is so valuable in fantasy leagues, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take David Johnson, because I don't want to miss out on that. Just on the sheer volume that Johnson is going to get this year, he's going to be my guy. So I'm going to go ahead and draft him. And we see Calvin Ridley go off the board there. Cam Akers gone. And we would have lost out on David Montgomery too, okay? So we look at our draft board. And these are the things I want you guys to look at, okay? When we made the Allen Robinson pick, there was a split. There were 7 and 7 that went off, okay? Now we come back. There's pretty much a split here as well. There's 3 and 3, and then we get the pick. This has pretty much been going about normal, with the exception of maybe the Odell and the Dak Prescott pick. I don't really see that happening that early. But this is the mid-round, guys. This is where you're going to make and break your draft. This is where you really set up and you find those guys later in the drafts that are going to give you guys value in your team. Okay, so I'm looking down here. I see McLaurin. I see Devontae, DJ Shark. Does he make that leap this year? We don't know. So it's something to think about. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to go with scary Terry McLaurin. And we'll take him just for the simple fact that, hey, guys, there's no other option in Washington, okay? And, yes, can he see double teams? Probably. But I'm hoping with the mobility that Haskins has, with as many running backs as they have in the backfield, that they'll be able to balance it out and keep defenses honest enough to where McLaurin doesn't see that many double teams, okay, where they can't afford to do that. So let's check out our draft board. Now, we're coming back on the short term, and like I said, you see Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Matt Ryan, and Matt Stafford gone, okay? All 5th, 6th round, okay? 5th round for Russell. They reached up and got him, and this is what we were talking about in the last episode or the reach episode. You're going to have to reach for players that you want a little earlier. That's why it's important that you set your team up in the first 3 to 4 rounds. That way, when it comes to round 5 and you're sitting there, we could have taken Russell Wilson instead of Terry McLaurin. Matter of fact, I tell you what, let's do this. We'll undo it. We'll go back to the cheat sheets. And let's go ahead and we'll take Wilson. We'll jump up and grab him. And let's see what happens. And, of course, we lose out on McLaurin, okay? And we see all these other guys go. Let's check out the draft board. So we're sitting there with one wide receiver. We lost out on – now, Keenan Allen, I'm not really too shook up about losing out on. I love T.Y. Hilton this year. The only thing that concerns me about him is he is injury prone on soft tissue, and there's already word out that the hamstring got dinged up in camp. Okay, so something to think about. Stephon Diggs, let me see. Like I've said before, I'm born in Springfield, Missouri. I'm from Missouri. You got to show me, okay? Show me what you got with Josh Allen, and then I'll believe you, okay? Robert Woods, PPR machine. He's going to be getting the targets, especially with Brandon Cooks gone. They go to a 12-man scheme where they have the 2 tight ends, going to give it a little more protection. We might be seeing that a lot more from the Rams this year, especially with Cam Akers, rookie running back coming in. They're going to want to try to give him as much opportunity to run as they can, okay? So let's see what we've got here. Now, like I said, I've got one wide receiver. My number 2, I'll go ahead and I'll take Devontae Parker just for the simple fact that all the the 2 opt-outs for Miami, they're going to leave them hurting, okay? Then I can come back around. And I'm not really too concerned about losing out on Kareem Hunt if I lose him. Let's take a look at our board. Now, if I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, okay, all these tight ends have gone, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Darren Waller, Zach Ertz. I see all these guys gone. I'm not really worried about taking a tight end because I've only got 1, 2, three teams. Yeah, we've got 3 teams, including my own, that don't have a tight end. So you're basically free to go pick whatever you want and push that tight end pick lower and lower. Okay, so you can get value at wide receiver, you can get value at a running back. If you want to go out and pick up a backup quarterback, go for it. I wouldn't recommend it. You can always stream a guy. There's going to be plenty of guys out there to stream by the end of this. And we'll take a look. I'll only go with one QB this time, and we'll take a look at the end of the draft and see who else is there that would be available to stream if that's the route that you want to go, okay? But I'm looking at this, and we see the quarterbacks all gone in the 6th round. So these guys coming back that picked up quarterbacks, their last one, you've got one sitting here with 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. You got another guy sitting here with 3, the Hey Darnold team with 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, and that's a rookie. Okay, so that guy right there is looking for any kind of running back that he can get. So if I don't take Kareem Hunt, he is going to be gone by someone, okay? So you're looking at probably Kareem Hunt, Darius Geis, Ronald Jones II, all off the board. But is that going to affect me, okay? When we read the board, we want to look at what is going to affect me. Am I happy with where I'm at? What do I need, and what can I afford to pass on? Okay. Now, we passed on Terry McLaurin, but we got Devontae Parker. Okay. So we lost one number 1 wide receiver, but we got another number 1 wide receiver, and we got a top flight quarterback for fantasy. Okay. So I'm going to go wide receiver, big upside with AJ Green. If AJ is healthy, and he's had a whole year to get healthy, he's had a whole year to get himself right, the upside on AJ Green could be phenomenal this year, okay? Now, I see Deebo Samuel go off. I don't know why he's even being drafted right now. I wouldn't touch him. We don't know what the injury to him is going to look like, okay? So let's look at our draft board, and we see we've got a good balance. We've got 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs. We got our quarterback locked up. Our first bench spot is basically a number 1 wide receiver, okay? We've got 3 wide receivers. They're all number 1s, guys. These running backs that we've got, these are all workhorse running backs. David Johnson is taking over the most vacated touches in the league in Houston. We know this, okay? Derrick Henry. Need we say more? Austin Eckler is the man with the Chargers in LA. There might be some snipes coming from Henderson, but Eckler is going to be the guy regardless of who the quarterback is with the Chargers, okay? So let's take a look and see who we've got here. Now, we said it earlier in the show that Matt Breida is going to be the guy in Miami over Howard. Okay, Jordan Howard's there, but I don't know how much I trust either one of them, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, I've talked about the Denver backfield. There's no way I want anything to do with that. Latavius Murray, the only thing that Murray is going to be good for is a backup role, and this is pretty much what we're dealing with here in this round, okay? You guys see down here, we're in the 8th round. It's the back half of the mid-rounds, 4 to 8. You're pretty much looking at backups or you're looking to get that diamond in the rough, now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to take a flyer on Diontae Johnson. And the reason I'm loving on Diontae so far this year is just a simple fact that if we know that Big Ben is back, we don't know how long Big Ben's going to be back for. Okay, I think he turned either 37 or 38 this year. He's no spring chicken, and we know that he has a propensity to get hurt. Okay, so he has injury risk. If he goes away, then we know that Juju falls off the map, and whoever's next in line is going to be elevated. Okay, so we know that Juju is Big Ben's guy. We don't know how he meshes with Diontae Johnson, but if I go ahead and get Diontae now and Big Ben and him mesh and they're covering Juju too much, we already know that Big Ben loves to throw. They're all about throwing. Ever since they lost Le'Veon, we know that James Conner is an injury risk. Yes, he's back, but like I said, Ben is all about chucking the ball, okay? So he's already been able to show that he can support 2,000-yard rushers, or I'm sorry, 1,000-yard receivers with Juju and Antonio when Antonio was there, okay? So it's not too much of a stretch to think that Juju has stepped up to the AB role, and that Diontae Johnson can slide into the Juju role and get you some touchdowns, get you a good amount of production here in the 8th round, okay? So let's take a look and see what's going off the board. Now we see the Steelers go off the board as the defense in the 8th, guys. It's way too early, so don't even think about doing that. Now, surprise! Oh yeah, we see Kareem Hunt gone, Jordan Howard gone, Tevin Coleman. I don't want anything to do with any of those backfields. Kareem Hunt would have been nice, but I'm not passing on the upside of AJ when we have 3 rock solid running backs, okay? So right now I'm looking at who up here can give me the most value at running back, okay? And you guys know where I'm going. If you've seen the show before, hopefully you have. If you haven't already and you're watching this for the first time, go down, bomb, subscribe, like, and share for me, okay? Alexander Mattison, look, Dalvin Cook hasn't made a fantasy playoff in 3 years, okay? The 3 years he's been in the league, he hasn't made a fantasy playoff. What good is he going to do you if he can get you to the playoffs but not win for you? What do you have left? So here's the thing. If you've got Dalvin Cook, or the guy who's got Dalvin Cook, and you've got Alexander Mattison, and let's say that you've got your spot locked in and this guy's trying to make a push, one, you could either keep him out of the playoffs entirely, or you can bulk up your team with a trade for Alexander Mattison and whatever you need to rock yourself into the championship round, okay? Because if the guy who owns Dalvin Cook is on that verge and he wants to make that push, he's going to be more willing to give up a really good pick to get Alexander Mattison. Basically is an RB1, and we're getting him in like the 10th round, okay? Sorry, we're getting him in the 9th round, okay? So let's go down here, and we see a bunch of wide receivers go off the board. Now, guys, this is why you lock up your running backs earlier, so that you don't have to sit there with a team like this where you've got Jordan Howard, who's basically splitting time with Matt Breida, Keyshawn Vaughn, who needs to oust Ronald Jones II, Darrell Henderson, who is basically bowing out to a rookie with Cam Akers, and Tariq Cohen, who is sitting behind David Montgomery for Chicago, okay? There's no way that I'm comfortable with that backfield, okay? And you see that the reason that they had to do this, let's scroll up here. They got Davante Adams, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen. Now, those are all good fantasy wide receivers, but they passed on all those running backs, so they're left with garbage at the end. And these are all guys that can get scripted out of games, okay? Davante Adams, yes, he's going to get the volume because he's the only guy there. Chris Godwin, he can get scripted out of a game, okay? It could be the Mike Evans show for that day. Adam Thielen, he's going to be the go-to, but what's going to happen with Justin Jefferson? We don't know. Plus, this is a run-first offense in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, okay? Jonathan Taylor still has to beat out Marlon Mack with no preseason to show them anything, okay? So that's just bad drafting there. Don't be that team, guys. So we talk about positional advantage. We're in the 10th round. We've pretty much got everybody locked up that we want to have locked up. Let's go down here to wide receiver and see if there's any gem that I'm even thinking about, okay? And I see one right here, and we're on the short turn. So I'll go ahead and I'll take Jalen Reagor because they've had a couple opt-outs in Miami or in Philly. We talked about that at the top of the show. We had Marquise Goodwin from Philly. He opted out. So that just is going to promote Jalen Reagor. Alshon Jeffrey is injured, so he isn't going to be available week 1. He could possibly start on the PUP list. If he starts on PUP list, he's probably going to be missing the first 6 weeks of the season. So let's check out our draft board in the 11th round, and we talked about guys that you reach for. Okay, well, you not only reach for individual players, but you can reach for a whole team. That's right. We're going to go up here. We're going to reach for probably what's going to be the best defense in fantasy football in the Ravens, in my opinion, okay? Now, we see Justin Jefferson go off there. We see my boy Noah Fant. I don't understand why Baker's even being drafted anymore. He shouldn't be. Now, Preston Williams is a very interesting wide receiver pick here this late, okay? I've got Devontae Parker, but Preston Wilson would be a nice handcuff, okay? Now, let's go here and see who we've got left for tight end. We see TJ Hawkinson on the COVID list, and I like the upside of Gesicki. So let's go ahead and we'll take Gesicki. Preston Williams, show me something a little later on. But we'll go ahead and we'll take Gesicki here. And we probably could have waited on Gesicki if you wanted to. But like I said, I'm not going to put – we talked about with Chicago when we could have taken Montgomery, but I already had Allen Robinson. I'm not going to put those many teams on my roster, okay? We're not going to put that many guys on the same team on my roster. Now, check out the draft board, and let's pull up our roster. So we've got our running backs locked, wide receivers locked, QB, defense, tight end, and we've got 2 bench spots available. Let's go up and see who we want to target, okay? Now, this is an interesting pick right here. I like the Carlos Hyde here. We know that he's able to take the workhorse load, and if Chris Carson gets hurt again, because we're talking about an injury that happened to your hip, you are a running back. Running backs and hip injuries, I don't know how healthy Carson is going to be. That's why I stay away from Carson earlier in the rounds. Okay. So let's go down here. And we're looking at, let's look at the draft board. And you see, guys, these are things that I don't like to see happen. I don't like seeing two tight ends on your squad. There's no need, okay? You see TJ Hockenson and Noah Fant. Well, one guy's on the injured reserve list, and the other guy's dealing with a second-year quarterback in Drew Lock that we're not too sure about because he's basically a rookie. He only played 5 games at the end of the season. Yes, he went 4-1, but could he have gone 4-11 or 4-12 in an entire season? We don't know. He played really bad defenses in the back half of the season. He really didn't face anybody. And the guys that he did face, there were times he had to struggle, okay, to even get the win. So I think the only loss he had was to Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. And who didn't lose to Kansas City? Okay, let's be real. So here, down at the bottom, I'm going to show you guys this right here. We see running back, running back, running back, running back, and then we come in with a running back, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more that go off, along with all the defenses in the 14th round. Now, we're sitting here in the 14th round. We don't have a kicker, and we've got 1 bench spot left, okay? So, who do I want in my bench spot? I will tell you guys right now, we're going to go down. We're going to make the same pick that we did before. And it's going to take me a second to find him. There we go. So we're going to take Antonio Brown. We're going to jump up and take him early. Now, I'll tell you guys right now, anybody who's going to purposely draft Antonio Brown is going to do so with their last pick. So if you want to target him, do the unexpected thing, jump up in the 14th and take him 1 round early, okay? Now, let's look at this point, you're pretty much off the board. You're really not looking at it too much. Went down a little too far, guys. Sorry. Kicker, here we go. So, as you guys know, I'm screaming for Zane Gonzalez. I'm beating the drum hard for him this year. I think that the Arizona offense is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And you see all the kickers go off in the last round, okay? And even though we ranked a B and I'm happy with that, you're going to be more concerned with the team that you put together because the grade can be manipulated, okay? This is why I don't like stats. You can manipulate stats just as you can manipulate your grade here, okay? So we see Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler at running backs. Also, we have sitting on our bench, Carlos Hyde at running back. And I'm going to be looking hard. Oh, and Alexander Madison at running back as well. So we got a good backups there. We see AJ Green, Deontay Johnson. We see David Johnson in the flex. So I can sub him out. If Eckler starts to slip, then I think DJ can move up to that spot, and I can sub out AJ. We see AJ Green popping off, Jalen Reagor popping off. We can put him in there. If Tua comes in and Devontae Parker starts to slip, then we can look at what AJ and Deontay and Jalen are all doing, and we'll see where Antonio goes, if he goes anywhere. And if it comes week 8 and he's not anywhere, he hasn't been signed, then I'm probably going to drop him by week 9, okay? but it's a wait and see. It's a stash. With the COVID coming, we know that there's going to be extra reserve spots. Pop somebody on a reserve spot, and you can have room for Antonio Brown this year. Okay, guys? So we said that we were going to go back and look at your streaming options for quarterback. Okay. So quarterback streaming option, Phillip Rivers. What better option could you have right there? Okay. Ryan Tannehill last year toward the end of the season was absolutely phenomenal. Joe Burrow, if this guy pops off, which I don't know if he will or not, but if he does, he's going to be a really good streaming option. Kirk Cousins, depending upon who they're playing, he could be a really good option. Teddy Bridgewater, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with Carolina. Drew Lock, was the tail end of last year the upside, or was that just a flash in the pan? We're not sure, and it's going to take us a second to figure it out, but he's going to be somebody to take a look at. If Tua comes in and pops off, then that's going to be a good pickup, and Fitzpatrick is always good for a streaming option, especially with that defense. Okay, guys? So there you have it. Special edition of Mock Draft on Monday on a Friday to send you into the weekend with confidence that you can go in and dominate your fantasy draft when it comes up. Now, what I want you guys to do, down at the bottom, subscribe, like, and share for me, and leave a comment. Tell me when your draft is starting, how many people it is, and what is your favorite position to draft in. If you don't have one, great, cool, understand. My personal one is I like the 4 spot, but I want to show you guys that you can draft from any position and build a championship team. Guys, as always, I'm the Dean, and you've been watching Fantasy Football Academy 2020. Hope to have a very special episode for you on Monday, but we'll see you then. Until then, remember, mask up if you're going out. Take care, guys.